And I expect early on in this game, both teams higher tempo than we saw them start off in their opening matches.
Big night for Allie Long. Casey Murphy heads off to goal. Took over last year just a week after being signed. Became the starter the rest of the way. For Houston Dash, Jane Campbell looking to impress as well as Vlatko Ananovsky, the women's national team head coach, is in the building, has an eye on this one. Houston taking on OL Reign, underway from Utah as the sun glares through Zions Bank Stadium in Harriman, Utah. We should be in for about 10 minutes of the sun pouring in over the top of the venue. And then we're in for one of the most beautiful sunsets these eyes have ever seen. Campbell. Daly picks up an early knock.
Have to see what happens there, but Mike, you just mentioned the sun, and that will play a role in the first 10 minutes. We see how the far side is a bit darker, and the sun and sunset showing down on this near side. And keep in mind that does affect the players in terms of, especially in the midfield, if you're looking around, having your head on a pivot, what that's like in terms of seeing your players. But as you mentioned, that will go down shortly.
Daly on the turn. Oyster came over from OL Reign, having started 20 games last year. Maybe one of the biggest blockbuster trades of the offseason that brought Sofia Huerta, who will not be available today, listed as out on the injury report, down to a new home. I think OL Reign's really excited about what she can bring once she gets on the field, though.
When you look at this OL Reign team and the amount of players that they have to come off the bench, some players that are still injured. You just mentioned Huerta, but Fishlock, who can come into the midfield, have an impact, one of the best midfielders in this league. We still haven't seen what this OL Reign can do, and that's something coming into this game. Especially this first 20 minutes, talked about having a higher tempo. They felt like they were a good team, good solid unit in that first game against Sky Blue, but really lacking in creativity in the offensive third. Bencidi wants them to play with more fluidity, have more freedom up top.
Balser with the initial hold-up play. It's Momiki. Nicole Momiki again. Long will pull the strings in central midfield.
And Mike, we've already seen Momiki there pinching into the midfield. She's going to look to combine with the likes of Allie Long, Rosie White, Shirley Cruz. Give them a different look, help overload some numbers in that midfield, but it also allows Taylor Smith to stay wide, get higher up the field. Something they were missing last Tuesday night against Sky Blue. She'll be an important piece to that fluidity that Bencidi was talking about.
Momiki, born in New York City, spent 3 years in the U.S. Then he was off to Japan. Played 9 years as a pro in Japan. Now gets her chance in the NWSL. Rosie White looks to switch the point. It's knocked down by Jenkins. Darian Jenkins battling with Prysock. Not the better of her. Corner.
Solid start by OL Reign. Just moving the ball, probing, looking to see if they can keep possession in their attacking third. Pull Houston Dash out. by switching the point of attack and then looking to play through Allie Long.
Ball launched across, nothing there for OL Reign. They'll look to latch onto the second ball. Run forward by Smith. Jenkins pursues. Campbell drives away. Daly flying from the outset.
And that's the matchup we were talking about. Rachel Daly versus Amber Brooks and Lauren Barnes. Feels like they can catch them over the top. Just penetrating runs. But then also having support underneath with Shea Groom and Christy Mewis being able to pick up any of the second balls if they can't win that initial ball outright.
Schmidt reverses. Taylor Smith there. 26 years old now, a forward turned to a fullback in Western New York. Then on to North Carolina, which of course Lori means as a fullback means your career skyrockets. Then went through Washington after the trade of Crystal Dunn, which really shook the league. Now Smith at OL Reign looking to reestablish herself. Good run by Groom. And so far as Long took it back. Momiki. Foot raise for Balser, the reigning Rookie of the Year.
And you get the sense so far that both teams just probing, feeling each other out, knowing that they want to keep possession, but attack quickly in transition.
Here is the transition. Balser. Good spin. White. Deflected by Prysock. Corner OL Reign.
This is a little bit different than we've seen in their initial game coming into this tournament. Slower in the build-up, immediately getting on that front foot. Balser picks this one up. Right here in the middle, gets on the half turn and then starts taking her players on. Something that we didn't really see her do in that first game. Played out wide, more passive in that game. So can they be more dynamic? It goes back to that fluidity we were talking about, the interchange, a little combination play.
Short corner. White feathers the ball over the top. Big collision. But play continues, and now Houston lobs as far as Smith. Rizali, now Schmidt. Well handled by the native of Winnipeg, who's closing in on 200 international caps for Canada. Taken away here, though, from Stengel. Momiki lays it over. Cruz spins it wide. Jenkins.
And that area out wide for the Reign is going to be important. We see how many numbers for the Houston Dash are converging centrally, especially defensively. So if the Reign can get it out from underneath their feet, switch the point of attack quickly, that weak side will be open to attack. Mike, you mentioned Sophie Schmidt sitting in that number 6 position for Houston Dash. Be tasked with just screening that back line tonight. Felt like it was an area that they can improve upon coming out of that first game.
Balser delivers. Out to Mewis. A couple of high boots there.
And Clarkson had mentioned that they were extremely happy with the attacking side of things. They were more dynamic, unpredictable, exactly everything that they had been working on in preseason leading up to this tournament. But defensively, too lax. Felt like they lost their marks easily, gave up some easy goals. So Schmidt getting the start in there, help shore things up, make sure they continue to build cohesion defensively that will allow them to continue to build out of the back and ultimately create even more chances.
Daly, the frustration bubbles over there a little bit. James Clarkson, year 2 as Houston's head coach. When speaking with him, they felt like there's a lot to build upon and also improve from last year. They finished 7th, 12 points out of a playoff spot.
And one of those is also changing the perception of this club. You know, we talk a lot about rotations and the players coming in, making an impact, but managing the load, managing how teams play within each of these games, since it is a quick turnaround, few days in between each game. But Clarkson said he didn't really have the luxury to do that. He wants to continue to build his team, but also if you change all 11 players, he felt like, okay, then we go out, and if we lose a game, then everyone's going to say, oh, it's the same old Dash. And they're really trying to build a team here that excites players to come to. They want to attract national team players. They want to attract top international stars as well. So it's a fine line in terms of building this team, but also trying to win this tournament. And again, change those perceptions of what your club looks like in the identity.
This can be a real statement of intent if you choose to make it that way. For what it's worth, Marissa Pilla spoke to Christy Mewis, an interview that aired earlier today on CBS All Access at halftime. Ball to Mewis. Mewis, a chance! Christy Mewis! How's that for transition? Dash lead. And these are not the same old Dash.
Mike, no, they are not. They win this ball, and it's a little quick combination play, and we can see the separation between the two center backs. And so much room for Christy Mewis. This is great pressure from Shea Groom. Forces a quick turnover. A bad pass out of the back from Casey Murphy, and then it's Shea Groom that finishes this one as well. Initiates that pressure, and it's a little back heel to the onrushing Christy Mewis. And when you talk about building a team that wants to have more fluidity, getting more numbers in the attack, this is what Clarkson is talking about. Players like Christy Mewis, Shea Groom, running out of the midfield. The space that Rachel Daly has left, she occupies so many players that it leaves space for other players to come through. Fantastic team goal by Houston Dash.
Just about to say, with Mewis, sits down with Marissa Pilla, and at first she says, we as an organization want to be respected, but then took it one step further. We want to be respected, and we want to be feared. That's a much bigger statement. Advantage played here as Groom trots forward. Big collision. And McNabb tackling Groom.
And one thing that I love from Clarkson when we spoke to him a few days ago was talking about how important Rachel Daly is, and one of the best strikers in this league in terms of occupying defenders, and always keeping an eye on her. So she's making runs even out of the midfield, not even just behind, but out of that central area, opens up space for so many others. And that's exactly what happened in this goal. So it's Shea Groom that initiates that pressure, but just by Rachel Daly being out of the central area, leaves the gaps in that back line, allowing Mewis to make some runs through.
Mewis drafted 3rd overall in 2013 by FC Kansas City by Vlatko Andonovski. Went into the national team for a few years, then went 5 years without a call, including an ACL tear. Ball feathered over the top on the set piece, and Daly sends this straight to the goalkeeper.
Now the question is how does the Reign respond to this? Some new faces, new identity, wanting to come into this game and have a higher tempo, more grit. See if they settle in. Felt like there was nerves in that first game that they felt like they got rid of. We'll see how they can respond being down 1-0 now.
Cruz into the challenge. Quarter of an hour gone. Mewis in the 12th. Houston ahead of OL Reign. It's a long run here for Stangl. Blazing past Smith. Lost that to the end line. OL Reign. Long. Well, the sun will be a fixture in this broadcast for the opening 15 to 25 minutes, give or take.
You can see Amber Brooks pointing to her teammates saying, check back. There's space to be open in that midfield. If somebody who checks too, they can break that initial line of pressure from Houston Dash.
That's a great turn, Cruz. If she can connect this pass, watch out. In step Schmidt, joined by Prysock. Good news is it is an amazing day for the 4th of July. As this runs all the way into the corner, and OL Reign will take another corner kick.
With OL Reign getting some opportunities down that left-hand side, can they start to make more of it? Already some corner kicks, some set pieces in their attacking third. And with the Haida Valley long, Bethany Balser, can they get on the end of these?
It's another short corner. Momiki. Skip off of Vizali. Now Barnes. Good looking ball for Long. Long got up. Commits a foul. Few players in this league take more punishment than Shea Groom. We have seen some heroic performances playing through broken ribs for more than a half of soccer and then playing with it for weeks after.
The type of player that you want on your team, because not only is there fight, but also, as we saw in that goal, the defensive pressure, the ability to run at players, her technical ability to open up games. And it's only been these first 2 matches, but you do get a sense that she's really found a home here for the Houston Dash.
It's Houston out of the back. Long took it away. Momiki. Balser making a run. Cruz as well. Momiki levels it off. Maybe Momiki a second time. Now plays it through. Everyone's looking for the offside flag. Jenkins. Made it back, had the run coming from White.
And that's what Momiki will add to this team.
Ball over the top, Momiki has it skip off. And Karam wide.
And great idea by the Reign. Momiki starts this one and then it gets recycled out and they go for the deep run or the deep ball into Momiki. Probably not her best in terms of getting on the end of those for the aerial battle. Could have done better to at least keep that on frame to test Jane Campbell. But great look and great timed run by Momiki. But that's what she'll bring to this team. Checking in, allowing for some more numbers in that midfield, little creative options. Saw that little chip ball a second ago into Darian Jenkins. Those are little nuances that they were missing against Sky Blue in their opener.
Nab and Long converge there on Stengel. Attack powering forward. There's Momiki again, who's played a bigger role already through 20 minutes than maybe her entire stint on the field last time out. Cruz, Momiki, Stengel, and now played long for Daly.
Noel Reign need to make sure that there's still a tight unit dropping together. That would have gotten through. That would have been a 1v1 against Rachel Daly and Amber Brooks. If somebody's going to step in pressure in the midfield, they either got to drop together or stay tight as a unit. The last thing you want is 1v1 matchup with Rachel Daly, especially with the form that she's in currently.
Well, and Utah made a point going into their game against Houston, stop that at the source. Let's go down to the field, check in with Marissa Pilla on how OL Reign has tried to respond after giving up a goal.
I asked assistant coach for Reign, Sam Lady, what he wants to see his team do in their response to conceding that first goal. And he said, we need to be stronger in the tackle. We need to win those 50-50 balls right now. We're just reacting too late to the challenge, and we need to be more reactive, especially in the midfield. And on the attack, he said, we need to find our high midfield players up the flanks.
And that's where that leadership from Allie Long comes into play, making sure she's a vocal leader, telling players to step up. But as I was mentioning, when we're talking about stepping up as units, staying tight, don't give anything away to the Houston Dash. Put pressure up. You also deny that service into Rachel Daly.
Decent there from Jenkins till it broke down. Momiki steps in as Cruz really hampered Houston and gets away from Smith. Played long, and the second ball pops out to Balser. Cruz. Jenkins. Jenkins dancing, tries to get by Chapman. Play still on here for OL Reign. Knocked over by White, and now Smith launches this.
We're starting to see glimpses of what the Reign want to do. Recycling the ball, keeping possession in their attacking half, play through the midfield. Momiki popping off that back line. Little combination play up, seeing Bethany Balser get on the ball and switching the point of attack to Darian Jenkins. Getting everybody involved, creating numbers up situations. Now the only piece that's missing is decisiveness in that final third, with that final pass, with that final cross.
Long diagonal, and Jenkins gets to get after this again. Cruz. Bailey. Newest, the goal scorer, back in the 12th. It's back to OL Reign. Not played cleanly by Prysock. There's Amber Brooks. Iron Woman, Iron Woman, Iron Woman, year after year after year.
And playing alongside another Iron Woman and Lauren Barnes, year after year after year.
Realistically, this is maybe the most tenured center back pairing in the league. And certainly with a fair number of accolades to go along with it, in particular Barnes, who was 2016 Defender of the Year.
And the only question mark coming into this game would be the pace of those two together against the likes of Rachel Daly. But again, if they're vocal, if their leadership's spot on. And
Prysock forward, Daly! Could have just turned in the goal of the tournament, but it goes wide.
And even if the positioning of those center backs or their marking is decent, this is the dangerous situation that Rachel Daly will always bring you. She knows that that's not good enough in terms of that final touch. Just catches the outside of her boot. But that run is spot on. Always penetrating, always asking questions of that back line, making sure that Amber Brooks has to mark her, has to drop.
Groom forward for Houston, and now three orange shirts together, sliding effort. Visali, and now it gets away. Visali signed before the Challenge Cup. He's a Red Star reserve team member previously after being a second-round pick by the Red Stars. 14 in orange.
He's a player that Clarkson said he's excited about to have on this team. Gives them a bit of a different look in the midfield. She can play out wide, but more comfortable in that 10 role or even an 8 role. Had experience playing overseas. Will aid in their understanding of how they want to build up, play through the midfield, but also quick in transition if need be.
Time at West Ham and at Birmingham City. Balser did well to hold up. as we reach a hydration break in Utah. Christy Mewis scores in the 12th minute. The Dash lead the Reign in the NWSL Challenge Cup, 1-0. You're watching the NWSL on CBS Sports. Christy Mewis scoring in the 12th minute of play. And a fine goal, too. Shea Groom played a massive role to set it up for the Dash.
Well, Shea Groom initiates the original pressure on Casey Murphy, forcing a quick turnover, and then it's just the rest of the Houston Dash doing the rest. Vasali doing a good job, and then it's the flick on by Shea Groom. And what a fantastic finish on the preferred left foot of Christy Mewis. Makes no mistakes about it. Slots that to the far post. Low, hard, driven. Nothing that Casey Murphy will be able to do about that one.
So Mewis and the Dash take a 1-0 lead as they pursue second place in the Challenge Cup with seeding on the line. All 8 teams will make the quarterfinal of this tournament. And as a player, I think you're well aware, no one's satisfied with losing or drawing. Every player who's on the field wants to win. That's why there's desperation for not getting the results you're looking for. Mewis wants to win.
100%. And this is something that you and I've gone back and forth a ton so far in this tournament is, yes, maybe these games in terms of seeding matter, but also everyone's going to get to the quarterfinals. So teams are approaching these games very differently. But I guarantee every single player wants to win, wants to be on the field. They're fighting for positions. And when you have a coach like the national team coach, Vlatko Ananoski, in the stands game in and game out, these players are fighting for national team opportunities as well.
Mewis's resurgence, chief among those looking to get into that mix. Houston ahead 1-0 in the NWSL Challenge Cup. Zions Bank Stadium in Harriman as these two sides play their second game of 2020, a tournament that sprung out of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. 8 teams coming together, all launched over here for Houston. Stangl wheeled around, watches this deflect away. Incredible job by the folks in Utah to put this tournament together, led by Utah Royals FC owner Deloy Hansen. Ball across, and maybe a chance to put a head to that for Daly.
Good work by Chapman to force Momiki backwards, and then a quick turnover. And Houston Dash now can control, settle down. This is another area that Clarkson's really been working on, creating that pressure higher up the field, forcing other teams.
Chapman. Looked like Murphy got a good piece of Daly on the back of the head. He was a little slow to recover, but up and about now.
But it's that quick pressure from the Houston Dash that allows for those opportunities.
Let's go down to Marissa with news from the Houston huddle.
During the hydration break, I spoke with Houston assistant coach Twyla Kaufman. Just want to play out. During that hydration break, I spoke with Houston assistant coach Twyla Kaufman about all the conversations happening within the team. Mainly, they said they want to fix their defensive shape a little bit, especially in set pieces, continue to find the space in front of their 9 that they've been really successful with, but mainly make sure the defensive shape is set before they start their attack going forward.
Thanks, Marissa. Interesting tactics there. Mewis delivers. Good ball headed down right at Murphy. Not a bad look there for Katie Naughton. was acquired from Chicago in a trade that saw Kaylia Watt go the other way.
And we're seeing what Marissa talked about in various positions on the field. If they can't get the initial pressure on the field, let's take a look at this last attempt. Good idea, but it's always going to be easy from Casey Murphy. But if they can't get initial pressure on the ball, they just drop back, get numbers behind. But since this hydration break, we've also seen Houston step up their pressure, get tighter on their marks, higher up the field, and it's created a few turnovers, resulting in that last opportunity. A deep ball crossed in for Rachel Daly.
Reigns switched the point. And Schmidt steps in. Quickly played on to Stengel. Now the cross lofted. Murphy certainly in position.
And I love the energy that Vasali has brought to this game. Active down that right-hand side. Defensively, just creating turnovers for her team.
This is Barnes. And a goal kick for Houston. Well, for OL Reign, how do you square what they put together in game one, a scoreless draw, with how they've performed through the first 37 minutes now tonight, Lori?
Well, they need to continue to get on the ball. When you look at their player personnel, so good in possession. You can find the likes of Rosie White, even Shirley Cruz, and a lot of that possession play will go through Allie Long. So it's all about the midfield when you're in attack. Defensively, just staying tight between the lines, making sure that Lou Barnes and Amber Brooks don't get too spread defensively. But they're under more pressure than they were against Sky Blue, especially in the attack. So how can they continue to handle that? And once they get a hold of the ball, breaking that first line of pressure and then calming down, settling into the play.
Barnes pops straight up, and Balser will collect with Jane Campbell on it for the dash.
And I like the idea from Lauren Barnes to be able to float those in to Bethany Balser. I'll take her on most of those aerial battles against these Houston Dash defenders, but she has to have support underneath her, win those second balls.
Campbell sends that into the stands. Vlatko Andonovski, the U.S. national team head coach, patiently taking notes. We'll be with Marissa Pilla at halftime. You're going to want to stick around for that one on All Access. So far, so good for the two-time NWSL Coach of the Year, who previously was in Seattle, then Tacoma with the Reign. Before that, a champion in Kansas City. Nice build here for Houston with a bit of help. This goes lofting out. I mean, Vlatko Andonovski, one of, I think, our favorite people to talk to in terms of coaches you get to speak with on a regular basis in this league. And what he's done with the national team, certainly interesting going into what we thought was going to be an Olympic year. But, of course, now he gets another year to ponder his roster for that.
And that's not an easy job to take over when you have two-time world champions back-to-back and to come in. But what he's done with them, the little details, the nuances of the attack, how they want to create numbers up situations, and also defensively continue to press as a unit. And that's something that we saw both in Kansas City and with the Reign. His teams were so difficult to play against. They would defend as a unit, attack as a unit. And he felt like he was just getting started with the national team before we've taken this hiatus.
Here comes Houston. It's an early ball up by Chapman. Stengel steadies, waits for Mewis. The run arriving. Ghazali won't quite get there to keep it in on the first try, but able to knock it up the line. And now cross right at Murphy.
And all that work by Vasali to keep it in, but then it's the cross that lets her down. And so many opportunities coming out of Houston Dash and their defensive presence, going together, picking off balls, forcing Reign to play backwards. On that last attempt, we saw Stengel getting in a good position right in front of that back line for the Reign.
Stengel getting after it. We almost had another. This would have been a much easier decision for the referee. Tight play with a goalkeeper for the Dash.
You like to see goalkeepers playing out of the back, but Casey Murphy's got to be careful. Almost the same play that forced her to have that turnover that resulted in the Houston Dash goal.
Well, Houston are chomping at the bit right now to get a second before the break. Stengel's got a little space to work with and dodges outside. Now the curling effort. One hops into Murphy.
And it's the final execution that's letting Houston Dash down. Can they keep it for one more pass to get themselves a better opportunity? Can they whip balls in, mix it up, keep it away from Casey Murphy? Right now, it's too easy on the crosses, easy for Murphy to be able to pick off. Vary your runs, vary your service, get better options in front of the goal.
Dragging run. This deflects off of White. Smith. Long ball brought down expertly. Jenkins. Surveys. Corner, OL Reign.
Prysock didn't fancy trying to go 1v1 again, but Jenkins just alleviates pressure, kicks that one out, lets her team get back, settle in defensively for this corner kick.
Well, Miki charging there was a decoy. And there's the cross. Smith. Noel Reign foul. To be fair, I think some fans who maybe haven't been following the league over the offseason, it was a long offseason, may not understand the OL and OL Reign. Lyon, one of the powerhouse teams, not only in France but in all of Europe, took an ownership stake in what was once Seattle Reign, then Reign FC. So now a third name for now OL Reign, a team with a rich history in this league, just with a slightly different logo than the past. Coming up at halftime, Vlatko Ananovsky will head down and spend some time with Marissa Pilla right here on CBS Sports. I think there's a fair number of people who would love to know what's in that notebook.
I, for one.
You know, I think Kate Markgraf did a phenomenal job leading the coaching search. It's tough to replace Jill Ellis given her level of success. And I think it shows an incredible respect for not only what he thinks about and puts in that notebook, but also what I think Kate Markgraf and the U.S. soccer apparatus think about the NWSL and the coaches that are in it. Laura Harvey, also former OL Reign coach, made the move into the U.S. national team on the youth side.
And every player that I've talked to that's played for Blackco has said the work that he puts in behind the scenes, the amount of film he cuts for each player, breaking down opponents. So it makes sense that he would be the next national team coach just in terms of his presentation for Kate Markgraf, trying to earn that national team spot, and just took over all the other candidates in terms of preparation, even for that presentation.
The interview.
Exactly.
Talk about giant shoes for Fareed Bensidi to fill, too. New coach for OL Reign, as we're nearing the end of the first minute of 3 of stoppage time in this first half. And they made it clear there's a lot that we want to keep from what Andonovsky and the previous staff, even the staff before that, had put together, the family nature of the organization. But they are maybe a little more compact than Blackco's old teams were. And there are different philosophies on the field. Ball slipped ahead. Groom is there. Groom crossing. Smith able to elevate. You know, Twitter's going to have a new handle called Blackco's Notebook by the time this game is over.
I hope so. We've seen it all in terms of the Twitter handles. Fantastic run by Shea Groom coming out of midfield a second ago. And Houston Dash really working themselves into this game.
Chapman, decent ball. Another collision. Player down. As Visali drove it across, deflects out, and they'll go back and take a look now. That's pleading with the referee.
Mike, you talked about the injuries and that Shea Groom has played with and battling through. It's a tough challenge going up for that header. Doesn't shy away from a challenge.
Let's see how the captain feels about that.
Safe to say she's not happy.
Yeah. Dale, even going back to her college days at St. John's, real firecracker. A lot of emotion on the field. This will deflect out. This will be a corner. That emotion that you talk about with Rachel Daly, it oozes out of her in the way she plays. It is so up-tempo, upbeat. Her speed and precision become a must-have for the English national team. Corner here for the Dash. Bit interesting there. Schmidt. Mewis on the move. High arcing ball, and Murphy collects. We're well past the allotted stoppage time. If you're Houston, you got to be real happy. A 1-0 lead at the halftime break.
Well, coming into this game, they wanted a faster start. They wanted to have a higher tempo. We saw exactly that within the first 15 minutes. Christy Mewis with a beautiful goal. And on the other side, Reign haven't really worked themselves into the game. A few chances, but for a team that wants to be known for the fluidity and attacking third, they got to find more numbers in the attack and find somebody that's going to be willing to take chances and score goals.
So OL empowered to use their role in society.
I agree 100%. And to your point about some of the players that are using their platform, the OL Reign's Sofia Huerta, raising over $16,000 for the Loveland Foundation, auctioning off boots, FaceTime, 20-minute FaceTimes, auctioning off U.S. Women's National Team signed jersey of hers. And again, just using their platforms to speak to what they believe in and to be able to donate to monies to organizations that they truly care about.
Well, these players do incredible things off the field, and it's never been more vocally notable than it is now, but has not been any less true before. Ready for the second half here on the field between Houston and OL Reign. The NWSL Challenge Cup from Zions Bank Stadium in Utah. Maybe an early chance here. A rip is high. And another turnover deep in the OL Reign half has Christy Mewis on the doorstep of a double.
And we heard Christy Mewis say right after halftime, they are the best in the press, and yes, they are. Rachel Daly getting on this ball, forcing the turnover, and then look who it is again, right on top of the box. Christy Mewis just finds herself falling away from this, is unbalanced. It looks like she slips, actually. Usually scores on those attempts, but puts that one over the bar. But great start by Houston Dash.
Here come the Dash again. Cross knock forward. Murphy's got it and wants to play quick. Jenkins fouled from behind.
And Vasali waving that one off as if she didn't foul. But again, it's a work rate from this entire Houston Dash team to get numbers behind the ball, track back. And you get the sense this is the new evolution of the Houston Dash team, getting numbers into attack, not just Rachel Daly, multiple numbers, but then defensively, the work rate to get back, to commit to the defensive side of play as well.
Vasali shown a yellow card. Another yellow card in the preliminary round would see her suspended for the following game, something to keep in mind in a tournament format such as this, where the leash is much shorter than over the course of a regular season. It's Barnes putting it in play for OL Reign. Cruz rises up. An amalgamation of players coming together, and now Barnes brings it down. Momiki, good ball forward, chested along, and White skies it over Groom.
And this is something we didn't see much of in the first half from the Reign. Deep balls in, penetrating runs, testing that back line. Something that we spoke about, Mike, coming into this game. Houston Dash giving 3 goals up in their opening match versus Utah. Is susceptible to the counterattack, to some of those plays. And there's still some question marks in that back line for Houston. So can we see more urgency in the second half from the Reign, continuing to put pressure on? We know they can keep possession.
Now what do they do with it? Campbell. Let's go down to Marissa, who caught up with the Reign staff at halftime.
OL Reign head coach Fareed Ben-Stidi told me his message to his team at half was overall pretty positive. He said his team has played well. They just made one mistake, and they need to use the next 45 minutes to be more efficient on the attack. Specifically, he wants to see forwards Bethany Balser and Darian Jenkins take more risks in the final third.
McNabb crossing. Jenkins has moved more centrally.
And the Reign team does have the capability to combine, to have those interchanging plays between in moments between their midfielders, between their strikers. Anytime you can get players running at that back line, causing trouble, taking those risks that Ben City talked about, just going to force the Houston Dash team to get back more defensively in their half, pin them in.
Decent run, fell apart. And Houston pushes across the halfway line. Stengel. Groom. Combining, Stengel powering forward. Mazzoli. Stengel. Long. And make no mistake, this is a very different OL Reign attack if Sofia Huerta is playing, if Jess Fishlock is playing. Certainly Megan Rapinoe, one of the very best players in the world, opting out of the tournament, as was her right, deciding not to feature in this tournament. So some of the best attacking players, both in midfield and among the front three, aren't available. So now you're asking different players to take on bigger and oftentimes more uncomfortable roles.
And not only that, this team looks very different because they had so many injuries last year. So majority of these players haven't even played together. You add in Momiki addition, Darren Jenkins coming back from injury. Bethany Balser and Allie Long are really the two mainstays in this lineup from the 2019 season. So it is a work in progress, no doubt. And you can tell all these players want the ball at their feet.
Well won. Already a great goal from Groom. In this instance, felt she was ridden down from behind.
Shea Groom is playing with confidence, wanting the ball at her feet, picking it up. And we've seen her play wide positions the majority of the time in the NWSL, but Clarkson spoke to us and said her best position is the number 10 because of that. She can pick the ball up deep, run at the back line, she can shoot, she can play the final pass. We saw in that Mewis goal, she has a little craftiness in her game as well. Just a little flick on to find Mewis on top of the box.
Meanwhile, Groom has had enough of this. Does not suffer fools.
And on the defensive side, she's not taking anything either.
Shirley Cruz, the captain of the Costa Rican national team, collides with Groom, who's had several run-ins. Tell me how you really feel.
The look on Cruz's face.
I'll say neither ceded any ground in that altercation. Does result in a set piece for Houston. Daly or Mewis to go after this. It is Mewis. Ball leveled down. Came off of Brooks, who heads it now. Mazzoli. Prysock.
Oh, well done. Good touch by Sophie Schmidt to get herself out of that pressure.
Daly, rising header, gorgeous goal. Shea Groom. Two of the best goals in the tournament belong to Groom. 2-0 Houston.
And you can see what this goal means to this Houston Dash team. The energy getting off on that front foot right from the opening whistle. And it's that touch from Schmidt that keeps her out of pressure. She finds Daly so much room out wide and that delivery, but no one picks her up. And these were the question marks coming in. The two center backs, how that partnership would work out between Brooks and Barnes. Too easy, especially after the game that Shea Groom has had so far. And all she has to do is put that one down and back where it came from after that delivery from Rachel Daly.
And Google Meet's excited. Hashtag Dash in Utah has been a common refrain on social media. And this Dash team looks revitalized. 5 goals now in the tournament, most of any team through 2 games.
And right now that back line for OL Reign, Mike, just so disorganized, out of sorts. We see some players dropping deep, others checking to the ball. It's too much space in there. We're already seeing Shea Groom and the likes of Christy Mewis being able to check off, find space to turn and face. They've got to get organized, step up defensively. If not, then drop off. But you've got to make sure that you're bringing Allie Long and your other midfielders back, because it's too much space in there for them to occupy and defend.
Brought down by Cruz. Couldn't beat Balser there. Free kick, Houston.
And the energy that Vasali has brought to this game for Houston. There's some question marks from Clarkson coming in. Playing over in Europe, typically a bit of a slower tempo, not as physical as the NWSL, and how she would adjust quickly enough, or would she adjust quickly enough? But the spark that she's added to this team fits in perfectly.
Naughton settles. That's off the mark. You know, I'm drawn to what Christine Nairn said coming into this season. We were only 10% off last season. If you can get through the door in 2020 with a brand new message and players and a team that wants to compete, a team that wants to be respected, they've come in with an attitude maybe unlike any other team in this tournament.
Oh. Clarkson told us right off the bat when we spoke to him leading up to this tournament, that is our goal, is to win this tournament, to show that we're making changes, we're changing our identity. And one of those things is the depth of their team. You just mentioned Christine Nairn, typically a starting midfielder for this team, has been coming off the bench or came off the bench in the first game. Obviously didn't get the start here tonight. So to be able to bring the likes of Christine Nairn, even Nichelle Prince, Cece Kaiser off the bench. This is one of the deepest teams that we've seen from Houston Dash, and they didn't have that look in the last few years.
Somewhat quietly, hope has enveloped the Houston fan base in a way it probably hasn't in 4 or 5 years. There's an element of getting the best out of Rachel Daly and Shea Groom and Christy Mewis, and players who've been around this league who maybe have ebbed and flowed or played in different positions. And there seems to be stability right now in the Houston Dash organization that had lacked in years past.
Well, keep in mind that was Clarkson's first real offseason to make changes, to be a part of the draft, and create a team that he wanted to. And Rachel Daly spoke about that, her belief in Clarkson and what he's trying to do up and down up until this point in time.
White out to Jenkins. Can OL Reign get one back? It's Cruz. And now the Dash look to counter. Very common refrain how good this Dash team was on the counter a year ago, and they wanted to make sure it remained a focal point this year. Broke down en route to Daly. Groom cleared off the ball.
And Mike, talking about the Vlatko Ananoski being here and these games meaning something, and Houston Dash coming into this tournament and wanting to win outright, that is their number one goal. You got to think that the likes of Shake Room, Christy Mewis are working their way into potential call-ups for the national team just from their play in these first two games. And that's what it's all about. I mean, this is just a replication of what a season would look like, but it does allow for these players to fight for, even in these initial games, to fight for a seeding going into the quarterfinals.
Long, dangerous back pass, and Stangl pursued. Injured player back behind the play. On that right leg. Certainly hope it's not too serious. Momiki goes over with words of encouragement here. So Rosie White being attended to here in the 61st minute.
Leg to leg with both of those players.
An instant look there from Rosie White down. Played at UCLA. Arrived at Reign following the Women's World Cup last year. And if you think back, she debuted for the women's national team as a 15-year-old, which makes the fact she's 27 seem much longer, but also a member of the New Zealand national team that just earned the right to help host the World Cup next time around, along with Australia, which I know you and I are very excited about.
Oh, it's going to be unbelievable.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite times playing in my career were over in Australia. Australia and New Zealand dual hosts for that World Cup.
Well, changes coming for OL Reign. It's going to be 3 in total. Each team has 5 substitutes to use. Jody Taylor among them, so too Jasmine Spencer. Let's go down to Marissa with more on Jasmine and that headband.
Earlier this week, I asked Reign forward Jasmine Spencer what her mentality is when she comes off the bench, and she laughed and she said she just wants to bring as much high energy as possible. Spencer said just constantly looking to be a threat and create chances, whether the team is chasing a game like they are now or even if they're up a couple goals. Jasmine Spencer also told me that she hopes the Reign is viewed as a team that will continue to fight from the first whistle to the last.
Well, and also has a lot of interests off the field, which I think you and I are both attuned to. Excited for her about.
Yeah, she has her clothing company that makes headbands called Jazz It Up.
That works.
Absolutely. She said it started off just as like a fun idea, and then she got her family involved, and they're like, here we go again. But it started from her excitement about how much she cares about the environment, so everything's ethically sourced, always doing the background in terms of where her materials are coming from.
As a foul in midfield. Barnes on the move, trying to pull out this dash side. Chance potentially as fireworks are screaming outside the stadium. This has to be one of the most unique situations a player's ever played in. There are fireworks 360 degrees around you. There are maybe 100 people in the stands, and they're all fellow players or family members in the bubble. How do you mentally get your head around this, Lori?
It's one of the many firsts in this tournament. I think at this point in time, nothing's surprising these players. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if any of the players, you're so tuned into the match, even notice that what's going on around them in terms of the fireworks.
Both teams would rather just have their supporters section banging a drum, but this is as close as it gets. In the 67th minute, Houston ahead 2-0. Mewis in the 12th, Groom in the 54th. Stengel leading Mewis. And Mewis lifting, bobbled, held on to.
And the Houston Dash continue to have success out on the flanks. OL Reign too slow to close them down, getting all the deliver they want to. It's too easy. Right now, OL Reign needs to step up the pressure, continue to make sure that they close them down, don't allow them to send the crosses in, but also step up their pressure higher up the field.
Long. Jenkins curling. Well, the flag had been raised. If she scores that curler, it is absolutely brilliant.
And this is the best buildup of the game so far for OL Reign. Jenkins making that little darting run at an angle, but then pulls just wide to give herself some time and space. Priceock's too slow to get out. She hits that one first time. Nearly misses that upper corner. But I like that mover from Jenkins. Diagonal run, darts in to bait her defender to just pulls out. That's something that was missing in that first game for Jenkins. It was too predictable with her movement. This is an area that the Reign can continue to find, especially going up with Priceock, who's typically a center back, giving her opportunity out wide and the right side. Jenkins hasn't seen much of the ball. There hasn't been much build-up for her to receive the ball. But if they can continue to switch to the point of attack and attack with urgency.
This is a good-looking ball, but stretches too far for Prince.
They'll be able to free those wide players up more going forward.
Michelle Prince came on a couple moments ago, was away from the team for personal reasons at the beginning of the tournament, and also hasn't played for the side since a knee injury cut 2019 short in May, so her first appearance in about 13 and a half months. Houston fans will be very happy to see 8 in orange on the field again. Lifted ball. Collected by Jenkins. Darian Jenkins goes to work. Former UCLA Bruin drops off Danny Weatherholt. That earlier triple sub, to recap, Momiki, White, and Balser came out. Spencer, Taylor, and Weatherholt on. So they've used 3 changes. Houston's used 1. Noel Rain on the attack again. And Rachel Daly recovering from a long distance to deflect that out.
And that has been the difference in this game. The commitment on both sides of the ball for Houston. Their willingness to get back, track back for one another. That is your center forward who's been creating chances in both of these first 2 games. Tracking back right outside the 18, helping out defensively. Not giving any opportunities for Rain to create chances in and around their 18-yard box.
Now Stangl is down and banged up. They look at her right leg. It's 2-0 to Houston over OL Reign in the 72nd minute. Stangl is down. The teams will take a moment. You're watching the NWSL on CBS Sports. Stangl back up. Houston a 2-goal lead. They're the hottest team in the tournament. Most goals, 5 thus far. Let's go back to the 12th minute when Christy Mewis got on the board.
And it's something that we've been talking about all game. Houston's dash, defensive presence, their willingness to get numbers. And Clarkson Setti, once Christy Mewis on the ball more, no better place than right on top of the box on her favored left foot. Sends that one low, hard into that far corner.
Then into the 54th minute. Charging forward, Rachel Daly. Perfect ball. Groom. That's vicious.
And their runs in the box has been so good. Their commitment to get numbers in the box. This is too easy. This is a great finish by Shea Groom, but so easy. No one picks her up. That's such an integral part in that first goal and throughout this entire game. For somebody to just allow her, of her quality, to be able to run through unmarked is unacceptable if you're playing for the Reign. But fantastic finishes to put that one back down where it came from, out of reach by Casey Murphy.
See the scoring numbers, rather diverse. Mewis out of midfield, Groom coming into the side, and Rachel Daly, the stalwart for Houston Dash. '74th minute, Houston ahead of OL Reign, 2-0. Groom and Mewis have scored in this one. Stangl able to get back onto her feet after that earlier injury was at the bottom of your screen a moment ago.
And Mike, looking at those 2 goals from Daly, 1 for Mewis, 1 for Shea Groom. Coming into this game, that's exactly what we were talking about. Who's going to help alleviate some of that goal-scoring pressure from Daly? Well, we got our answers tonight. 2 attacking midfielders making runs deep from that midfield position. So difficult for defenders to pick up.
Celia Jimenez Delgado set to come on, the Spanish native. She's capped with the national team there. Now going back to 2014, went to Iowa Western and then into Crimson Tide of Alabama. Where Wes Hart had so many positive things to say, the former MLS player who coached her there. And Allie Long comes off after a 74-minute shift.
And Allie Long will be one of those players on the bubble for the U.S. Women's National Team. Speaking with her a few days ago, how important these games are to her to continue her preparation, continue to stay fit. finding ways to continue, little details, nuances to improve her game.
Great work to initially break up play for Houston. Mewis is still asking for a foul as Cruz almost jumped on her back. And it's a smaller roster. It genuinely is that simple. The numbers are tighter for the Olympics than they are for the World Cup.
And it's not easy. I mean, all around the position's so competitive, but particularly in that midfield with the amount of players. You look at Juilliard, Rose Lavelle, all of these players making such a difference at that level, difficult to break into.
It's not that Allie Long is new to that equation, but staying in there with some of these young players that have come along over the last couple of years, and also the players who've been around now for some the better part of a decade plus, it's tough.
And at that level, it's just the smallest little details. So if you can improve little things, little movement off the ball, whether it's possession, whether it's threading balls through if you're in midfield, those little things will go so far at that level.
Veronica Latsko comes on. Katie Stengel comes off. Away from Jenkins. And what makes it, I think, even more difficult, we heard it a little bit in Black Leninowski's interview at halftime with Marissa Pilla, but when is the U.S. national team going to get another chance to play a game? Because that's unclear right now. So players like Allie Long need this tournament maybe to be their CV, their resume, because they may not get a chance to get into the national team many times before you get into the actual run-up to the Olympics.
And that's when you see players elevating their game here, but also players that are doing all they can on their own individually to stay prepared, stay ready to be called in whenever that is. A lot of unknowns.
Chapman appears to be in really significant pain. Having an ongoing conversation. Canadian international who's been part of that side now for the better part of a decade. On comes Morgan Andrews. Rayner out of changes. They've used all 5. Houston has only used a pair.
And this is why you can tell that it's still a work in progress for the Reign in terms of everyone getting on the same page. Shirley Cruz, Costa Rican international, a decade worth of experience over in Europe. Still don't feel like we've seen her best here in these first 2 games. Finding little pockets of space. She's so good getting on the half turn. Haven't been able to find her in good positions to be able to make an impact.
Ball played ahead and now lifted over. Houston was looking for their 3rd. It was Latsko, the Virginia alum.
Why are you smiling at me, Mike?
No reason. We were talking with the coach today, and you were asking about some Virginia players, and the coach just said, Lori, why do you keep asking about UVA players? Ball ad here. Gorgeous. Opportunity still yawning for OL Reign. They can't get the final swipe at it to really test Jane Campbell.
And the question remains, why haven't OL Reign gone more direct in this game? The few times that they've gone direct, it has posed some problems for those center backs in that back line for Houston. It's a great diagonal ball from Amber Brooks, just floated into the path of Jenkins. Outside in run for her. makes a mess of it with the touch in the end. But at the same time, those are times if she gets a good touch on that, she's in on goal. And even if it's predictable, just launch those balls in at first, and then you'll create some more space. And that's what we haven't seen from OL Reign throughout this game. There wasn't enough space for them to occupy. We talked about Shirley Cruz. Loves to get on the half turn, split the difference in between that back line and the midfield line. But credit to Houston, closed the space quickly. But OL Reign made it easy for them, or have made it easy for them in this entire game. No penetrating runs to open them up.
Ball bouncing, and there's a foul. Spencer doesn't care for that. Tomorrow, incredible games on the docket. We've got a rematch of last year's final. North Carolina taking on Chicago. Pre-game coverage, CBS Sports HQ, 12:15 Eastern. CBS All Access has live coverage beginning at 12:30. The late game will have some intrigue, too. Portland taking on Washington. Meanwhile here, Shea Groom adds a second. Brilliant goal. This in the 54th minute. Had a great curler in the first game. This time uses her head.
And it's two passes to spring. Rachel Daly out wide. And then Shea Groom makes no mistakes about it with this header down, low into the ground. Beautiful ball in by Rachel Daly. Even better game by Shea Groom, posing herself, making runs out of that midfield. Not afraid to get into the tackle.
Haley Hansen, Christine Nairn come in. Lest we forget that Houston had what felt like a commanding 3-1 lead against Utah in their opening game and conceded a goal on a free kick, direct on goal, and a second knocked into the box that was headed home by Sierra King, the first-round draft pick for Utah in the 89th minute, and ended up seeing Houston drop 2 points. Settle for one, leaves them in position here to only reach second place rather than potentially be on level terms with North Carolina at the top of the Challenge Cup standings. McNabb shown a yellow.
We're seeing a lot of tough challenges, a lot of players down on the ground, coming off the field with some little slight injuries, it looks like. And this is the concern coming in with the games back-to-back, so little time in between, the recovery of these players. How would they be able to withstand playing this many games in succession? Goes back to things that we've been talking about, which is managing the game within the game. Can you find ways to close out, whether it's changing your formation, keeping possession, different ways if you're up to manage the legs and the loads, because they only do have 5 subs. And eventually people are really going to have to play 90 minutes.
Daly wins the foul, and the free kick is in a position where Houston could go for goal. Nairn and Daly. Are these fireworks just a precursor? Off of the backdrop. Daly strikes. Drops down. Off that dribble from Schmidt. The farm over there, much more happening place than usual. Those fireworks going on. Rolled wide, little bit of a touch there. Smith took over. Smith. Daly. Smith went in and appeared to push Nairn into Daly. Both ended up sprawling to ground.
Fantastic touch by Daly to separate herself. She just puts on a foot on the ball to slow it down. What are you going to do about that? Nairn and Rachel Daly look like they collide. Smith staying out of it. She didn't have any part in that.
Latsko looking to get involved here as the dash fire forward. And that laced diagonal ball didn't reach its target. It stands now with just over 3 minutes in stoppage time to go. Houston would move into second place on account of goal difference, sitting on 4 points, a win here and a draw in their opening game. OL Reign would prove, I think, that one is far from the loneliest number, as the bottom of the table is littered with 1-point teams right now. Still a bit of time left to make something of this. And this struck area where Campbell could run over and snag it. You look forward for these two teams. Really, we're talking about seeding at this point. We're talking about, as a 1 seed, wanting to face the 8 seed, because everyone's going to make it into the knockout stage. Houston has a chance to continue this upward trajectory on a Wednesday against a Sky Blue team that struggled today against Utah in a 1-0 loss. OL Reign will take on that very Utah side, knocked off Sky Blue.
And there's no easy games, regardless of where your team, whether you're in transition phase, rebuilding your team, lots of new faces. The parity in this league makes it so difficult. At any given day, any team could come up with a win. I mean, yes, North Carolina has set themselves apart. They are the standard. They show why bringing on national team players in groups of 3 at halftime for substitutions against the Washington Spirit. But outside of them, there is so much parity in this league, and you'll hear every single coach say that.
Yep.
And it really does come down in this specific tournament, how you're managing players, how you're rotating them, the combinations you're putting together.
I mean, today we really saw Vero and A-Rod play a phenomenal game for Utah. No, theoretically, the difference in that goal won't decide whether you're in the knockout stage or not, but that level of form and momentum could very well decide how far Utah goes. And that's part of why we're talking about them so much as a surprise to the tournament in the same ilk now as the Dash.
And the Dash coming in, so many questions. We knew that there was a lot of talk about the unpredictableness in the attack, sitting numbers forward, shoring up things in the defense by bringing in the likes of Oyster and Naughton. At the same time, so many questions, and they're answering those for us now. Their belief in the system, their belief in Clarkson and what he's trying to do.
Evident.
Absolutely.
Dash side that only had 6 shutouts a year ago. giving up three goals in their first game, rather. Have a chance now to blank OL Reign. This is the first time the Dash have scored multiple goals in back-to-back games since May of 2018. Spencer could knock that through. 6 added minutes. Oyster. Was once traded for Christy Mewis, believe it or not. I don't know that there's a single player in this league who's been involved in more transactions than Christy Mewis. Traded twice
not,
in a month, twice, 3 times in 8 months back in 2017.
In one season, there was 3 teams.
Right. And the web of transactions of all the players involved in those deals over the years is mind-numbing.
Well, it sure does look as if she's found a good home here at the Houston Dash. And then took over part of that midfield. And saw a lot of time in the 2019 season, but even Clarkson said wasn't fully herself coming back from that ACL injury, her movement, but now she's back in the offseason, put a ton of work in terms of getting stronger, continuing to work on her individual skill, and becoming even more true professional off the field. And you can see what this score line means to Clarkson. The effort he's put in to really change this perception, continue to change perception. And he will be the first to admit, this is his first 2 games, but they're on the right track. In terms of people believing in what they're doing, and they're here to make a difference and be a winning franchise.
Back goes Daly. Throw for OL Reign.
And Mike, if you're looking at this OL Reign team, new coach, lots of new faces, you're in a good position because you have a game right away. Best players want to get on the field again, be able to put themselves in this position to get back and perform right away.
Spencer. A little back and forth here. And they're pointing here for a corner. You know, Houston fans weren't the only fans rooting for Houston, it turns out. This was earlier today. Orlando Pride have really taken this in stride over the last week and a half. A ton of credit to Jackie and the whole staff at Orlando. But they did a fan vote. Houston won. Now they're friends. And Houston put on for Orlando. Thank you. Cross here for OL Reign, and the header goes wide. The vote was close, though.
I appreciate the response. Strange times, y'all.
Fireworks continue to explode all around this venue. Over 4,000 feet elevated. The stadium home to the USL Championship side, Real Monarchs, that won the league last year against Louisville City. Will be entering the NWSL with the team next year. What a great venue. It's a bit of a drive away from Rio Tinto Stadium, home to Utah Royals FC, and also Real Salt Lake. there's something picturesque of being able to see all around the venue tonight. And it's just one more knock for Rachel Daly in the final seconds of this game. It just continues to pile up. And one wonders, how many bruises and bumps can you have before you think maybe the third game you might give a player the day off for maybe a few less minutes?
And that will be something that Clarkson takes a look at, is how can they rotate players but continue to still have the high level of play. But it goes back to the depth of this team, bringing in new players, being aggressive in the offseason to acquire some players that can step in immediately. Christine Nair, who's right over the ball now, has been a starter consistently for this Houston Dash team. Now going into this third match, will she look to get a start, save some legs for some of the players that have gone more 90 minutes?
And maybe get a chance to see some of these younger players or even some of the veterans who've gotten a little less time moving forward. Houston at this point can just salt out the rest of the clock. The fireworks for Houston, simply brilliant. The Dash tonight come up with a major result in the context of this Challenge Cup to move into second, and their offense continues to go on all cylinders. Full-time whistle on this 4th of July. First appearance for Houston and OL Reign on Independence Day. In this instance, the Dash undo what has been half a decade plus of futility against the Reign with a win here tonight to move to second in the Challenge Cup standings.
And credit to Houston Dash, dominant from the opening whistle to the final whistle on both sides of the ball. The Reign could never work themselves into the game, struggled both defensively and in the offense. Difficult to keep possession. They'll go back to the drawing